bit about the memorabilia that you have.
Basically, the stuff I bring to shows now is rare. You know, I've been doing this for 40 years, and I only want to have the rarest of the rare stuff. It's the more expensive, hard to find material in postcards, photography, and movie memorabilia.
Can you be a little bit more specific when you say the rare?
Pre-1950, you know, if you want to look for Wizard of Oz or Gone with the Wind or Grable and Lombard, that kind of early vintage stuff. Chaplin, Laurel and Hardy, all the comedy people.
Out of your entire collection that you brought here today, what piece has a special place in your heart here?
Actually, I'll reach back and get it. It's this. This is a Laurel and Hardy movie prop. It's when the boys went to a convention and their wives were left at home, and Charlie Finlayson, they met him and they introduced him to these girls. Well, in the picture itself, the camera pans across this photograph, and basically the boys are in trouble because the wives now find out they've been with other women. So that's why this is important. And there's a letter that goes with it from the director who actually had this photograph in his collection. It's the only known prop of a Laurel and Hardy film I've ever seen.
Oh, there's an early Mickey postcard there.
Yeah.
So early Mickey is...
His nose is really more like a mouse or a rat. Then Walt kind of cleaned him up.
Interesting. So this is earlier Mickey here,
right.
And then this is later.
Yeah.
So can you see the nose
see
is
how
different.
early those noses are way out there.
So what years are we talking about for these
Basically,
cards
the earlier
here?
ones are 30s. And then probably the latest stuff is 40s. And a lot of these are European, and they didn't have the rights from Disney to produce these. They just did them anyway, because in those days it's hard for Disney to stop anybody from doing it. So Disney didn't necessarily like these. He just, had to tolerate them because of the way it was.
I would be more inclined to get the earlier Mickey than the
right.
than the
It
later
is. It's
Mickey.
a harder stuff to find.
We are here with Danny Frankel and Diane Frankel. How did you get your start?
I learned from another friend of mine early on who was dealing in these items, and then after I met Diane and we got married, she also fell in love with it.
I got a kick out of what was written on the back of the postcards. People would write about the farm and crop, or the weather, or the ride there on the train.
Yes.
And I'd read someone's whole family history, and I just got a big kick out of that. Then I started looking at the front of the cards, and I saw the beauty there and the art there that just isn't there anymore. I mean, there's a lot of graphic art that people are doing on the computer, but the hand art that comes out of some of these, that's now on some of these old labels, they're just not being put out anymore. It's not being done.
Is there a particular piece that you're fascinated with?
Yes, Danny's getting it right now. These are luggage labels, and what happened is when you were first to check into a hotel, the bellman would come around with a can of paste and slap these on your suitcase. It was advertising for the hotel, and it was prestige for the traveler, so that their luggage showed where they had been. They don't do this anymore.
So how do you find something like this? Do you have to pull them off like luggage themselves,
No.
or?
No, because they're so fragile that would damage the back.
Sure.
So it's a real hunt to find things like this. It's usually a piece-by-piece thing to find something this special.
Which is this one?
This is in Tel Aviv.
Wow.
The hotel label. And it's Art Deco-y. See, look on the beach, the umbrellas and the shape of the building.
What is this one here?
Amalfi.
Uh-huh.
And it's a picture of a monk overlooking the coastline.
That is amazing. Mm-hmm. Who would have thought a luggage label with a monk on it?
These were the handbills that they used to give out in the concerts, like at Fillmore West, for upcoming concerts.
Oh, wow.
So, as you can see, there's lots of psychedelic stuff.
That is amazing. And you have tons of these here.
Yeah.
Let's see. Look at this one from Lenny Bruce. Oh, that is so
Aren't
cool.
those-
And what were these used for again?
Advertising for the upcoming shows. Like if you went to a concert, let's say the Rolling Stones or whatever,
Uh-huh.
next week at the Fillmore Auditorium was Lenny Bruce. They'd hand these to you on your way out.
Jefferson Airplane and the Grateful Dead. I think I need to drop some acid and read some of these things.
And here's Donovan, Buffalo, Springfield, Chambers Brothers, and Richie Havens.
Van Morrison on the left, and Eric Burdon and the Animals, and Blood, Sweat, and Tears on the same bill on the right.
These are a set of luggage labels that were put out by Pan Am for some of the places that they flew, including Hawaii and New Zealand. They have one for the U.S., Australia, the Philippines, the Orient, which is my favorite, and Alaska.
It's amazing.
Yes, they're beautiful. Some of the airline labels are from airlines that no longer exist. This one's Sabena.
Oh, okay.
And obviously hotels. This is an example of one of the hotels.
My father collected art, and then I went to a show one day, and probably when I was in my 20s, and I just was really drawn to the pinups, and I started collecting.
Tell us what you have here. This is very exciting stuff.
This is a Billy De Vorrs. It was done in the 40s. He's probably one of the top pinup artists. He was known for glamour girls. He always did the most stunning faces, and what you'll find with the pinups is because the 40s was the biggest time for them because of the war effort. They were on the nose art of the planes. Most of these artists probably wouldn't have even made it if we hadn't had a war.
So these are all Marilyn Monroe.
And what happened is that she modeled for Earl Moran before she became a famous movie star. But in one of the articles on Earl Moran, she commented and said she loved posing for him because he always made her legs look better than they were. He made them a little thinner.
Now, where were these actually in? Were they in magazines?
They were, see the ribbing right here? They were calendars. And these came out in the 50s, and it was a whole series of Marilyn Monroe. This was trim, but the bottom half had the calendar on it. This is Follie Bergere, and this is from the 1944. It's got Coke in it, and it's got 7-Up, plus it's got all the stars. And these are quite collectible. There's, talk about Betty Grable, there she is, right on the back. Chesterfield, don't you find that ironic? All the movie stars modeled for, and did ads, print ads for the cigarette companies. And they talked about how it was good for the T-zone, that it was good for your throat.
The T-zone?
They called it the T-zone. This area from the forehead down, it would clear out your sinuses by smoking.
Really?
That was one of their advertisements. This artist is Arthur Syzk, and he was an artist in the 40s, and he did every kind of parody he could do on Tojo, on Hitler, Mussolini, but he was an amazing artist, and this is extremely rare, these Collier magazines with graphics on it. This was advertisement for war bonds, and it's from 1942. All these folds in here are an indication that you know it's a vintage piece.
Oh,
If
interesting.
Not folded, they could be reproductions. I just picked up this extremely rare Rosy the Riveter, Saturday Evening Post. This is one of the most difficult pieces to get your hands on, and it's in really nice condition. This is one of my pride and joys
Look
right now.
at this. This
is from the 1800s.
Wow.
And this is, they call it a Victorian Die Cut, and this is how it would come, all pieced together, Germany. And hands down, the German were the best craftsmen and artists in this time frame, and still are when it comes to doing pieces like this. But this is extremely rare because of the condition. It's absolutely mint. These are pieces that they would die cut and actually make to either use as ornaments, or believe it or not, they would glue them in scrapbooks.
Wow.
It was the beginning of scrapbooking. Look at the detailing on this. These are called Pulldowns. So when you originally get them, they're flat. And then you open them up with all these amazing layers.
And they're still in great condition now. How old are these?
1800s and early 1900s.
Wow.
That's why I have some put away, but these are on display so people can appreciate them. Art Deco Bridge Tallies. These
Bridge
tallies. People actually played bridge with them. But this is the most affordable Art Deco that you can buy, and there's literally thousands of these. I'm working on a book, trying to do a book on these, and I keep finding more.
That is absolutely fascinating.
So
I never thought that would be in existence.
And when I show these to people, they're in shock over the graphics. And these are the original score pads, and these are the original tallies.
And those are bridge tallies.
Right.
Wow.
The most collectible and the ones that are sought after are the Art Deco era, which is late 20s to the early 40s.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, we're speaking here with Fred Burke, and Fred was educating me on this card from my hometown of Norwalk, Connecticut. And we noticed on the back of the card that it's only for the address only. Tell us a little bit about that. What does that mean?
Well, the reason is that the government did not allow messages to be written on the address side of the card. Therefore, people just sent the cards, and if they wrote any messages, they wrote them in the margin or along the side of the picture part of the postcard. Now, in 1907, they changed the law and allowed people to write messages on the back. Half of the back was for the address, and half of the back was for the message. And that's been the case ever since.
Tell us a little bit about this one.
Well, this card shows Los Angeles Harbor before there was an actual harbor down in San Pedro. This was a wharf that went all the way out into the ocean from Santa Monica. And the Southern Pacific Railroad put this in so that it would have hold on freight traffic and passenger traffic into the Los Angeles area.
And it actually looked like that.
It did, yes.
Wow.
Yes, it went a long way out, and you can see there's trains on it, and they thought this would be the big harbor for LA. This is a pretty ordinary but nice card of Venice, California, when it had all of its canals. 2/3 of the canals in Venice disappeared in the 1920s when a so-called modernization project took place. It was never really completed, that is the whole development. There were mostly little cottages along there. They imported gondoliers from Italy.
Really?
Yeah, to create the atmosphere. They also tried to import culture. They had opera singers
From
come.
Italy.
From Italy, yes. They really tried to make a big thing of it. Actually, as far as postcards go, it's a pretty common card, but to somebody who hasn't collected cards of the Long Beach area, it's interesting to see that the beach came right up here to the land. What's now all built over, covered over, and the ocean waves came up here. There was no breakwater, and there was a pier that came out with a roller coaster on it a little bit later than this.
Okay.
This was earlier. This was when there was a bathhouse here.
This is the interior of the plunge.
Yeah, a bathhouse or
Wow.
a natatorium, as they call them in
What
Long
do they
Beach.
call it?
Natatorium.
Natatorium.
Yeah.
Okay.
People didn't like to swim in the salt water as much as they did in the fresh water. This is a card that shows how the ocean used to come up to downtown Long Beach.
Wow.
Right in the middle of the horseshoe is the Long Beach Auditorium, which is still there, but you wouldn't know that there was water around it before. That's the old auditorium.
So you can see Long Beach as it was back in.
Yes,
How
yes,
long ago is it?
exactly.
How old do we think this?
This would be in the 40s, 1940s.
The main focus is probably European style postcards. Interesting cards having to do with aviation, having to do with early automobile history, sometimes circuses. One of the things that's so interesting about postcards is even if you don't know a lot about something, you can go to the internet, do some research, and you'll find out huge amounts of information. And most of these, you can find artists that worked, you can know biographies of people, like Josephine Baker. You can find out history, what a town used to be like, what buildings were there, what have been torn down. There's huge numbers of postcards dealing with catastrophes. People would actually write postcards as a means of communication.
Got it.
And in some cities, there were up to 6 or 7 deliveries a day. So you could actually write a postcard in the morning, send it, and get an answer back the very same day. Say, hey, come over for dinner. And then say, okay, I'll be there at 6.
Wow.
And you would actually get that delivered. That was how people talk to each other.
And what's this?
This is a postcard that is a souvenir. So somebody that went to the Eiffel Tower would go there, visit. They could actually get their personal portrait taken. They cut it out in a silhouette and
That is so
actually
cool.
paste it on there.
And there's the Eiffel Tower there
And-
with the silhouette. Talk to us a little bit about these here.
This right here, she was a famous. Yeah,
World War One spy.
Oh, okay, Mata Hari, got it.
but she was also a showgirl. Josephine Baker.
I have heard of her.
Yes. She was a dancer and a singer.
Poster art postcards from Air France. And we also have one from the Olympics.
That is real hair.
Wow.
So they would actually take somebody's real hair, curl it, and put it and actually glue it onto a postcard and send it that way.
That's a great piece.
Yeah.
I'm glad you pointed that one
Yeah.
out.